let me just ask the fans this. Do you guys want to see Canelo versus David Benavidez?
Guys, we just saw history in the making. David Benavidez shocked the world with the sixth round victory over Zurdo Ramirez. Guys, he is now a 3-division champion. It's absolutely amazing, guys. David Benavidez is on top of the world. David Benavidez, guys, yes, he obliterated. I'm sorry, but he destroyed Zurdo Ramirez, and with a monstrous victory for the Mexican monster himself, and now he's calling out the likes of Canelo Alvarez. It's absolutely insane, guys, and I can't wait to share the details with you guys. And look, David Benavidez didn't just win. He might have actually broken boxing's power structure as we know it. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about, guys. The victory in itself is absolutely surreal. Fight weekend was incredible. We had Inoue taking on Junto Nakatani at the Tokyo Dome in front of 55,000 plus fans. It was absolutely ridiculous. Of course, Inoue has moved on now to add on to his most perfect record. And then we had UFC and now David Benavidez. So what essentially happened in Las Vegas, guys, this weekend, it's way bigger than a knockout. And I'll explain why. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us, guys. Welcome back to Duality 7X. I'm your host, Shiraz. I want to get to the deets, okay? And here are the deets. Well, before we get into the details, we need to ask ourselves a question. Did David Benavidez just become perhaps one of the most dangerous men in boxing? Did he? I'm not just talking about from a fighting perspective. I'm talking about from a business perspective, because you had a lot of major players in audience for this one. I saw Oscar De La Hoya there, Golden Boy. I mean, there was a lot of people. And people who were not there were obviously watching with intent. Because now David Benavidez has just improved his 32-0 perfect record, which he won via 26 wins by way of knockout. And he stepped up to cruiserweight. And guys, he didn't just win the fight. He dominated at that weight level. Guys, Gilbert Zurdo Ramirez had a 48-2 record. 30 of those wins came by way of knockout. He's not a stepping stone. This guy, Ramirez, is a legit champion. He's big. He's flexible. He's durable. I mean, this guy's an experienced veteran of the squared circle. But if you watch the fight, like many of us did, from the opening bell, Benavidez looked sharper, quicker, faster. His footwork, his timing, he looked absolutely dangerous. He was of the two, he was the most dangerous fighter. His hand speed, guys, carried him up in his weight. His timing. I talked about his footwork, his in-ring IQ. I mean, his forward pressure was just relentless. I think it was just too much for Ramirez to handle. And then once it kind of got to the feeling out rounds in the beginning, we got to round 4, things started to shift a little bit because Zurdo was actually having a very solid round and he was pushing forward. He was applying pressure. And then all of a sudden, just like that, boom, before you even knew it, Benavidez drops him with the late, brutal combination, and you could see it on the faces of the people kind of ringside. A lot of people were just in shock, and you could just feel it. You could feel it. I wasn't there, but you could feel it in the air, guys. The fight had changed. And I mean, you can't be 100% on the side where you're completely shocked, because Benavidez is, I mean, this guy can fight, okay? So when he did that and people were stunned, they shouldn't have been, because round 6, that was it. Zurdo's right eye, was closing. His reactions were slowing. You could see it. And Benavidez just kept going. I mean, it looked like Benavidez just got started. Okay. And there was still another 6 rounds to go. Another beautiful combination, another knockdown. And then this time, when Zurdo took the knee, he didn't even try to beat the count. The referee was counting 7, 8, 9, and he just waved off. He just waved it off. Gilbert couldn't continue. The fight was over just like that, guys. And it tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about where we are right now in respects to boxing, because that was a statement win. David Benavidez is now a 3-division world champion. The only fighter in boxing history who's been able to hold titles at the super middleweight division, light heavyweight division, and now cruiserweight. What's next? Heavyweight? I want you guys to just let that sink in for a second. That is some tall order, okay? And you can rest assured that his adversaries, future opponents, they're all probably looking at each other, scratching their heads and wondering, wow, how can this guy be stopped? It was absolutely an impeccable victory by David Benavidez, okay? If anyone wanted to send a message to the entire boxing world and to the division, that was it right there. Because when a fighter moves up in weight, you kind of expect a little bit of trade-offs, right? There's that opportunity cost. You move up in weight, you kind of lose out a little bit on your speed, your power, sometimes your durability, because, sometimes you could get a little sluggish, that up and down and all that's really hard on the body to burden. But didn't affect Benavidez at all. In fact, Benavidez looks stronger than he's ever looked before. And so this is why I feel things are going to start to get a little bit uncomfortable for the rest of the boxing world, because now you're not just dealing with the weight bully anymore. Now you're dealing with the bona fide, fully grown, fully realized problem, okay? And that bona fide, fully grown, realized problem is none other than David Benavidez. You're now 3-division champion of the world, and he's already calling out names. He called out Canelo Alvarez. He had a lot of respect, by the way, for his opponent. They kind of grew up in the ranks together, trained with one another. So that was really nice. Good sportsmanship. But here's where things kind of get a little bit interesting, right? Because the biggest reaction to this fight didn't necessarily just come from the fans itself. I mean, it's always great to hear the fans' take on things, but it came from fighters, and it came from some very notable fighters. One of whom I want to share with you, none other than Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford continues to be in the news everywhere. Every time there's a big fight, I see Terence Crawford around. He was just at the Tokyo Dome, guys, watching Inoue's fight against Nakatani. And Terence Crawford, look, is probably one of the most accomplished division champions ever. Multi-division champions, okay? This is a guy who retired as a 4-division undisputed champion after beating Canelo in 2025. And that was a big deal. A 4-division champion, okay? And for years, guys, if you guys know anything about the history, Crawford and Benavidez have been circling each other for many, many years. The back and forth and, the possibility of them linking up for a fight. I mean, there was some real tension, okay? I'm not going to dispute that. There was a lot of tension between these two guys. Definitely real debate, okay? You had speed versus size. You got skill versus pressure. But now that fight is gone. Ever since Terence Crawford did what he had to do and achieve what he was able to achieve against his victory against Canelo Alvarez, He has subsequently retired from the sport of boxing. So now it leaves behind a very, very important question. Who actually wants to fight David Benavidez right now? Okay. If you thought he was dangerous at super middleweight, then you thought he was dangerous at light heavyweight. Now you find him absolutely monstrous at cruiserweight. That's scary stuff, guys, because history always reminds us of something. When a fighter such as David Benavidez becomes this dominant, this dangerous, and this avoided, somehow he's been able to kind of follow his through the labyrinth of, all this weird politics and red tape when it comes to the world of boxing. A lot of people seem to be ducking him. And it's not, you can't really, like, look, this is business. At the end of the day, it's all about business. And this is where, unfortunately, like as fans, we see it one way, but there's a business side of things as well too. This is why, unfortunately, we don't get to see Jerome Boutsanis taking on Virgil Ortiz Jr. or, a lot of these fights that we want to see, but sometimes it's really hard to do, really hard to get there. So let's talk about Canelo Alvarez here for a second, right? Because Benavidez called him out, right? As I just alluded to, again, right after the fight was done. That was making a statement. And he asked the crowd, are you guys for this? And everybody was all in, guys. I mean, the reality starts to kick in because, look, Canelo, I mean, just think about this for a second, guys. This fight has been right there for many, many years. Okay, even Terrence Crawford and Benavidez, it didn't happen. Canelo, Benavidez, still hasn't happened. And now, after this performance, the calls are getting louder. People are getting antsy. And I'm not just talking about the risk factor in all of this, guys. There's always going to be a risk factor to a fighter's legacy and future and career and the business side of things. But for these guys to have not fought, or for Benavidez to not have fought either of these guys, it's bad business at the end of the day, because Benavidez is not, you got to stop looking at him as a contender. He's not a contender anymore. He's a 3-division champion. High risk, high damage, lots of potential. A fighter who's got some serious momentum. Serious momentum. And Canelo, you don't think Canelo knows this? Saul Alvarez, one of the greatest of all-time fighters. Okay? What do you think he's thinking of right now? Like, you got to think about it. What a fighter's thinking, what do I got to gain from this fight? And what do I have to lose? You got to outweigh, you got to put that on a scale, and you got to figure out what means more to you. Saul Alvarez is ready to take on Christian Mbili. Okay? Saul Alvarez was out of commission for quite some time. He had to get surgery on his elbow, and now he's training for his fight against Christian Mbili. And just like that, that's how the power shifts in the sport of combat sport. Sorry, in the world of combat sports, primarily boxing. So Benavidez can call out Alvarez, but we got to wait. We got to wait. We got to wait to see what happens between Mbili and Canelo, and then maybe another fight for Benavidez perhaps, and then we get a super fight. One performance, one moment, one statement win away, potentially, from securing P4P rankings as the best fighter in the world, perhaps. So the question is Benavidez chasing greatness? I mean, he's young. I think he's only like 29 years old. But now he's forcing the world of boxing to confine to his terms. Think about it. You're 29 years old. You're undefeated, 32-0, 26 wins by way of knockout. You're a 3-division champion. And some people still think you're a contender? What's really important in all this is that, look, the problem that I feel that no one can ignore anymore is you can't sandbag these kind of fights for like a later date. You can't. You know, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You're going to get it done. Get it done. This 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 wasn't just about, like, this fight wasn't just about stopping Zurdo Ramirez. Okay. This was about, I feel this is about changing the narrative, changing the conversation, the way people see certain fighters, primarily David Benavidez. Okay. And a lot of people, I feel, don't give David Benavidez the credit where credit is due. And everybody now feels that he's very capable of fighting in a super fight or a mega fight. I think Benavidez was being avoided, and maybe strategically, purposely. And I think he continues to be avoided. If Benavidez is not being taken seriously, or maybe he is, and maybe he's being taken, maybe he's been taken too seriously to the point where his adversaries and other opponents or would-be opponents are like, too big of a risk, and you know what? I'm not going to get flack for avoiding this guy. So that tells you all that you need to know, guys. That's my honest opinion. His hand speed is amazing. For a guy who moved up, okay, fighting at 200 now, or 205. Wow. I mean, what's next for Benavidez? Honestly, guys, is Benavidez the face of boxing? I want you guys to tell me, right? Or is the business preventing him from being able to actually move forward and secure that top spot as the best boxer right now on the planet? Or am I overhyping this guy? I need to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you guys. Like, for a guy like Terence Crawford, who continues to show up at a lot of these mega, like, big fights, I mean, he's everywhere. I mean, look, the guy doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, first of all. Terence Crawford has proved it. I hate to say this, but that fight seemed very one-sided against Canelo Alvarez. But I'm also on the thought that I also subscribe to the theory that sometimes fighters have off days. Fighters can have off days. Like, you go to a gym sometimes and you're just like, you know what, I don't want to be here. You know, you try a couple lat pull downs. You know, it's just not there. You're just not feeling it. You just want to go home. And that happens. The body tells you. The body is always there quick to remind you where you are in the grand scheme of things. The question is whether or not we want to listen to our body. That's a different story. But for a guy who was able to do what he's been able to do, like, I'm so impressed with Benavidez. I've seen a lot of fighters either cut weight or increase weight to prepare for their fight, and sometimes the stress alone that can do to a person's body makes them almost zombie-like in their performance. In this case, quite the opposite. Benavidez looked better than I've ever seen him before. He looked fast. For a cruiserweight, he was so fast. His hands were flying like Bruce Lee's. There's something about David Benavidez, guys, and I think we have to stop ignoring. And I think it's time that those calls start to get louder to the point where we see David Benavidez fighting the best of the best that the division has to offer. So I want to see, and maybe it could be Hamza Shiraz. I have so much praise, and, like, I think this guy's absolutely incredible. I mean, the way he dismantled Berlanga in New York. But he hasn't fought since then. He's going to be fighting soon. And then you got Christian Mbili. You got Canelo Alvarez, who's returned. Now, maybe he could fight Canelo at 175 pounds. I mean, I don't think Canelo wants to go up to cruiserweight. No, it's going to be hard. But, I mean, I don't know. Even that fight, I don't even know if it's realistic, guys. I really don't think so. So who do you fight? Do you start looking at guys like Romero? Do you start looking at, like, going down in weight? I mean, how much more down do you go? Like, you can't go from 200, 205, all the way down to 147, 148, dropping 50 pounds just to fight a guy like Ennis or Stevenson or Haney or any of these guys. But like, who do you fight? You're David Benavidez, man. Right now, David Benavidez is the king of the world. And let him enjoy, let him relax. He's got a lot of gold and hardware all around him to prove that he is the best fighter on the planet right now in his division. So I want to see what's next. I mean, but if a guy like David Benavidez, who's now a 3-division champion, was able to move from super middleweight to light heavyweight and now to cruiserweight, what's stopping him from going heavyweight and just going for it, guys? Can you imagine Alexander Usyk or Fabio Wardley or Daniel Dubois, maybe Tyson Fury, maybe Chisora, maybe Ruiz fighting on the likes of David Benavidez for the heavyweight championship of the world? Holy schmoly, guys. That's a whole different conversation. Anyways, guys, I want to hear your thoughts and comments, guys. What do you think of the performance of David Benavidez? Do you think people are avoiding David Benavidez? Do you think he's not getting his credit where credit is due? Or do you think it's just overly hyped and you think he's not really that great? I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your comments. Put them below, guys. Please smash a like and subscribe. Hit the notifications so you guys never miss a beat. And yeah, check out one of these 2 great videos, guys. And hey, if you guys are into copper, if you guys are into bullion, you guys got to check out Lion Metals. 0.999 1 kilogram bars. They're going for $200. If you guys are interested, then send me an email to duality7x@gmail.com, and I can send you some information about how to get your hands on probably one of the hottest commodities, hottest precious metals on the planet today. So anyways, guys, thanks again for sticking around. As usual, the pleasure was all mine. I look forward to catching you guys tomorrow.